Dark Harvest is the worst keystone in the game, and it's not even close. It does less damage than Electrocute, has a longer cooldown, and it doesn't scale nearly as well as the infinite stacking would have you believe. There's virtually no champion in the game that does more damage with Dark Harvest compared to their next best keystone, and it warps your gameplay into chasing stacks rather than optimal plays. So as always, let's do some math and talk about it. Welcome to League Encyclopedia. I'm Robin, and I want you to stop building Dark Harvest. Now, before we get into anything, I have to say, Dark Harvest is such a fun rune. I don't fault anyone for wanting to run it. That proc sound effect is such a dopamine hit. Just like, so good. It's like Heartsteel, you know? You just want to risk it all for another stack. But that's not a good thing. When you start playing for stacks, you warp your own gameplay pattern away from what's optimal. This is true for all stacking champions too, like Smolder, Senna, and Nasus. You're incentivized to play a certain way early to hope for late game supremacy. And at least for the champions, that's often worth it. For Dark Harvest, not so much. Let's break it down. Dark Harvest has a base damage of 30, with an additional 11 per soul. Just like Electrocute, it also adds 10% of your bonus AD and 5% of your AP to its damage, which is great for us since we're trying to compare them. So right off the bat, you can see that this is just absurdly low unless you already have a bunch of souls. But how many souls do you need to compete with Electrocute? Well, Electrocute's damage scales with levels, and it looks like this. The general rule of thumb to compete with Electrocute is you want your own level plus 2 souls. Which doesn't sound too bad at first glance, but we'll get to that. We can ignore the additional 10% bonus AD and 5% AP since both runes share that exact ratio. So, what do you think? Is having 8 souls by level 6 normal and achievable? Or what about 13 by level 11? Let me know in the comments if you're a Dark Harvest enjoyer, how many stacks you average in a game. I'm super curious because there's not really good data out there that I was able to find on that. The only defense, in my opinion, that you can make for Dark Harvest is that its cooldown can reset in a fight to give you multiple procs. Even that, though, is kind of a weak defense because of how it resets. If you didn't know, Dark Harvest resets its cooldown to 1 second upon scoring a takedown. Note how it doesn't instantly reset it. It just moves it to a 1 second cooldown. And in a teamfight, that 1 second can actually mean a lot. Consider like a Wombo combo Nocturne Orianna play, right? Instead of getting a proc on everybody hit in that shockwave, you might get one on the squishiest champ, and then that delay prevents you from running through the fight getting proc after proc. And that's why Orianna doesn't run it. Electrocute's cooldown is a flat 20 seconds. That not only makes it more reliable, but also way easier to use in lane. Sure, you don't get multiple procs in a single fight, but that's kind of true for a lot of Dark Harvest situations as well. The other thing hurting Dark Harvest is that Electrocute has been buffed a couple of times over the past couple of years. I mean, Aurora Top is almost entirely dependent on Electrocute, and if it ever got nerfed, I'm certain Aurora Top will just not be viable anymore. So my question to you is, am I missing something? Like, who is this rune for? I only ever see it on like Brand and Teemo, and it looks like it's just about as good as PTA on Teemo, and most Teemo players I know prefer PTA, while Comet is still strictly better on Brand. So I don't know that this rune really has a good home right now. I want to like Dark Harvest. It has such good flavor, you know, it's got that spicy dopamine we all want, but as it stands, it's just kind of a troll rune that really only outperforms Electrocute after 20 stacks in the late game, which just doesn't really happen all that often, especially at the higher levels of play. Or so I thought. Hi, Editing Robin here. That's where I was going to end the video, but after talking about it with some friends, I came across this. And as a recovering Vel'Koz support main, I had to give this a try. And it's not like I've never run Dark Harvest on Vel'Koz before, but like, it's been buffed since the last time I considered this rune as viable, let alone good, so pretty excited to try it again. And the results were fine, I guess. I mean, I've won every game with it, but then I started to check other AP support champs like Xerath, Lux, and hell, even Morgana has it listed as her highest win rate rune by like 2%, like if not more, compared to the next highest rune choice. And these aren't inflated by like low elo players not knowing how to like prevent the enemy from stacking. This is for Emerald Plus, Like, these win rates actually go down at lower elos, which was counter to my original hypothesis and conclusion. So it must be stated that these aren't like the biggest sample sizes around, so do take these numbers with a grain of salt, but they're also not insignificant. I mean, 13% of almost 11,000 is close to 1,500 games. So what I'm trying to say is, not only was I wrong about Dark Harvest, but I guess its home is AP supports exclusively, which kind of makes sense after the latest buff. It scales off of stacks, right? So instead of Electrocute, which scales off levels, and as a support, you do end up getting fewer levels than everybody else in the game, so you're more likely to stay on pace with Electrocute damage. And in the game that I'm running here, I mean, I out-damaged Swain's Electrocute, which was just a fantastic happenstance that he happened to run it. I think I did more, like 2k more damage with my Dark Harvest over his Electrocute, but it's not always just raw damage, right? Of course, there's situational value as well. But anyway, it just all seems so obvious in hindsight now, but I just don't encounter this rune that often, so I never considered that it might be secretly good finally. Anyway, that's all I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Let me know in the comments what your opinions on Dark Harvest are. Are you like me where you thought it was kind of meh? Or are you like a true believer? Or just somewhere in between? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, I'm going to keep playing Dark Harvest Vel'Koz, and this has been another entry in the League Encyclopedia.